Alright, looks like we're up. Okay, Internet Archive seeks material for Library Amateur Radio. Art of Computer Programming, Volume 4B. Oh my. Honestly, I cannot read this. I don't know why. I just can't. I can't read the art of computer programming, but derive paradoxical facts about the Cauchy distribution and heavy tails. Interesting. I actually cannot. I don't understand any of this whatsoever. So maybe I'll read it in the future. Maybe when I grow a few brains. Okay, Micron picks Syracuse for computer chip plant. That would bring 9,000 jobs. Okay. How to move a running process into a TMUX session. This could be interesting, actually. Because you want a lot of things to be persistent when running. Time restricted eating improves cardiovascular health for firefighters. From UCSD. Okay, cool. Shout out to my alma mater. Inflation has a 40-year high. What can history teach us? Okay, ClickHouse Cloud is public beta. I have no idea what ClickHouse is. Since inception, ClickHouse has been synonymous with lightning fast query speeds over massive data sets. As the creator of open source, our goal has been to... Okay, so you're taking fast queries, alright? Alright, but the thing is, okay, how does this work, and what exactly is it trying to do here? We're able to develop our vision of cloud-native, seamlessly scalable, easy-to-use analytic databases. Okay. Okay, yeah, I don't get this, honestly. Chess investigation find more likely cheated more than 100 times. How does it start with real life Linux? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. Seems like a kind of a slow news day. The only thing left is the Elon Musk Twitter deal. But I feel like I don't have the expertise to really comment on it since it's more like a legal matter. The Onion files a wait, what? The Onion files a Supreme Court brief? The heck? Hold up. What the hell's going on? The Onion taking staff with serious issues. It filed an amicus brief in support of an Ohio man who faced criminal charges over a Facebook page parodying his local police department. Interesting. Okay. Amateur comic. Jailed for creating a fake social media page in 2016, styled after his police department, and it was an obvious parody, okay? So, wait. So he filed a civil suit alleging his constitutional rights were violated. Dismissed a legal doctrine that protects government officials from being sued for allegedly violating civil rights. Okay. So they're saying police officers get immunity because... Okay, for violating civil rights. Oh. Okay. There's no recognized right to be free from a retaliatory arrest that is supported by probable cause. Okay. Fine. True to form. Takes a satirical bid to get the nation's top. It starts with the outlandishly false claim that The Onion is the world's leading publication with a daily readership of 4.3 trillion. That's to the single most influential organization in human history. The publication's aim is to get the Supreme Court to scrutinize qualified immunity and free speech rights. Okay. While the ruling that threatens a disembowel a form of rhetoric that has existed for millennia, that's a particular point of political debate. Okay. That forms the basis of the Onion writers' paychecks. Okay, I kind of get the point. They're writing an amicus for the court to express the support for satire. Okay, because they don't. I'm sure that their point of view is that, hey, the Onion writes satire. We don't want to get raided by the police. Right? They poked authority in. So the Onion's professional parodies were less than enthralled to be confronted with a legal ruling that fails to hold government actors accountable for jailing and prosecuting a would-be humorist for simply making fun of them. Okay. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Interesting. Did not respond to a comment. Police can use their authority to arrest the critics without consequences. Everyone's rights are at risk. Okay. I think that's a very fair point of view to have, actually. No other comment. U.S. job outlook for software developers. Okay, let's see. Much faster than the average for. Okay, so the tech industry is growing faster than we projected, than we expected. Okay, fine. Overall employment. Okay, many of these openings are expected to result from the need to replace workers who transfer to different occupations or exit the labor force, such as to retire. All right. Expansion for AI in response to threats over cybersecurity. Investments in infrastructure. Yes. Okay, so they're projecting that we need to employ 25% more workers in software engineering. Interesting. I think this is going to be net more because, well, if you think about it, these numbers are net, right? So which means that you need more people than who are leaving the industry. And I think I did a blog post about this before where basically 25% of people who start off in tech don't stay in tech. So I would expect that if we consider all the people going in and then give it a 1.25 multiplier on that, and then subtract the number of people exiting, you roughly end up with, I don't know, I think you probably would need at least 600,000 off the top of my head. You would need like 600,000 more people applying for these jobs. That's at least my back of the envelope calculations. But you know, the one, but I think this projection might also be incorrect, only because they consider a lot of these software developers, I would guess, like pretty interchangeable. That's not really the case. I think that a lot of the data here is weighted more towards people with a particular set of skills, because let's put it this way: you're not going to hire some new grad out of school to protect your billion-dollar infrastructure necessarily. You're going to want him to get a few years of experience out there before you hire him. But that leads to like a catch-22, where it's like you need the job before experience, and you need experience for the job. So I'm not sure to what extent you can actually read into the numbers, only because there is a demand for software engineers, but a much higher demand for good software engineers. If we wanted like crappy engineers, we could get that easily. Anyway. Facebook to purge thousands of layoffs as part of quiet layoffs. Ooh. I guess this is a response to the quiet quitting. Rundown players houses in Ultima Online. Face trial for homeopathic products next to real meds. Lowest who's hiring post count in 30 months. Yep, because everyone has a hiring freeze. All right, it's 8 p.m. Let's bring my client on and see what's up. Okay, let's see if he shows up. Hey, hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Edward.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
How about you?
Doing good. How did Amazon go?
Good, man. I feel I was a bit tired going into it, but I still pushed through. There wasn't a point in the interview where I was like stuck like not doing anything. So the approach definitely did help there. Um, so yeah, so do you want me to talk about like each of the interviews, or how do you want me to talk about this analysis? I would say.
Yeah. So, let me preface this what my plans are for this week for you because it's gonna be a little different. Because at this point, usually most of my clients they start feeling like really, really burned out. So this week, it's because like this is around the sixth week, and you see me do this with like Jay and other people. Basically, what I want to do is spend this week kind of like being a little bit more relaxed. I want you to feel like this is the time to get everything off your mind, talk about things that are maybe jumbled up in your head, and try to get that straightened out. And for us to like take this time to really think about like where we want to head through next.
Okay.
And before we keep going hard again. And so this week,
Mhm.
I want to give this time to you to like talk about like all your thoughts, any feelings that you have, anything that you feel like, hey, this could be better, something I'm screwing up on. And usually the Amazon, like your Amazon interview is going to be a good litmus test of that. So how's that sound?
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
All right, cool. Let's get to it. And did I get on the nose that you're feeling a little bit burnt out?
Yeah, man. Like last week in our session, I was pretty burnt out. Like the following 2 days, so I try to rest up as much.
Okay.
Just trying to look at some videos on YouTube just to like
Mhm.
clear my mind and everything. And
Mhm.
that did sort of help, but
Mhm.
it's not completely like not recovered. I would say
Mhm.
because I'm feeling it at work as
Yep.
well. So yeah.
Yeah, no. It's grueling. It's like the
Mhm.
schedule I give people. It's absolutely grueling, but it needs to be done. Because there's no way around it. Like it's either you go hard or you go home. There's no in
Yeah,
between.
yeah.
So I totally recognize the need to like take breaks, and this is the week break. So ideally, what would happen is you would disconnect from the internet, except for days that we meet. You literally do nothing but just lie in bed, read, do have fun, go out there, let loose. And
Mhm.
then you come back the next week refreshed. But the time we spend together, I want to just kind of like chill, relax, and just like get everything in our heads straightened out and see what we need to
Okay.
do from here on. So
Okay.
let's talk
Cool.
about the Amazon interview. I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. So let me get my notes. This was Friday. Yeah. So the first one it was like like a very common problem. Do you want me to say the exact problem it was, or
Yeah,
just
feel free to.
yeah? It was the count number of islands. So
Okay.
yeah, that's the classic solve it in DFS or BFS, right? That one I took my time with it. I didn't just want to jump into it based on our experience, what happened in a few sessions ago.
Good.
So with that one, I read it. I read everything. I basically nailed down the scope of the problem and what they wanted. So once I wrote down my idea and then the steps that I would take, the interview in the middle asked me, "Can you modify this so it doesn't just go in up, down, left, and right?" Right. So she wanted to go in all 8 directions. Essentially, it's the same. It eventually gets there, but yeah. So that one, to do it really quick, I just did a quick example and I was able to nail that out right away. So yeah, the examples really did help there.
Good.
Because that was one of my issues there, like just seeing the examples set in stone. So yeah, that definitely helped from the last session.
Good.
So that one I completed. I did that one pretty quick. There was like 10 or 15 minutes left in time. I did kind of struggle on the time complexity because like I thought the runtime was going into like the order of 3 event. No, not 3 events. Sorry. Because you have you can go in 4 possible directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when you advance one time, you have to remove one of those choices because you just came back from one square, right?
Yes.
One grid. So yeah, so that's what I suck. But what this problem was, it was DFS, so it's like m times n, right?
Yeah.
And then the space complexity is the depth of the recursion.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yep.
Okay, so you struggle a little bit with this time and space complexity. You got the algorithm right. And so I'm not too concerned about this, but this is something we haven't really focused on because we really want to nail down the approach. But yeah. You basically, if you think about like what the problem is doing, it's visiting every single square and never repeating it. So you get mn time and space complexity.
Correct. Yeah, and as I was doing an example, the interviewer said, "Oh, just do something small." I trust that this code works. Yeah, because I was gonna do the whole graph that you gave me, but yeah, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That was brought up in our sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I've repeatedly brought up. Hey, start small.
Mm-hmm.
Start with a very simple, dumb example, and then
Mm-hmm,
expand out from
mm-hmm,
there. So I'm
mm-hmm,
glad you remember that. That's it seems like that really helped.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Next.
Uh,
By the way, how many minutes did you get per interview? Like 45?
uh, it's like 25 to 30, because the first half is behavioral,
Oh
and then
wait for
it's
the okay. So all of them are 25 to 30.
yeah, 25 to 30.
Okay, so half of it's behavioral, half of it is the problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit. So let's go through all the LeetCode or data structure algorithm type problems, and then let's go back and talk about the behaviorals on each one.
Okay, okay.
Cool.
So second was so yeah, so what happened was for my second interview was another coding question, but the interview showed up late, so we only got to do the behavioral. So it had to be rescheduled to the end of the day. So that was a bit exhausting. It was gonna be done in Monday, but I didn't want to do that because I was just exhausted. So then we did this at the end of the day. It was the problem was the problem. It took me a while to understand because I had to ask a lot of clarifying questions just to see what the ask was and what the examples represented because it wasn't straightforward. So I did the what the problem was you have two rivers flowing right downstream, and then you have this helper function that tests the two rivers whether there was a chocolate spill in either one.
Wait, rewind. Helper that had what?
It's test samples. So you test the value from one array, and then you test the value of another array. It's passed into one helper function as two parameters.
Okay, so you got a helper function that passes two parameters. The rate of one of each of the rivers.
It's just like the instance of a river, like
Okay.
color river. It's a position in the river.
Oh, it's a position.
Yes, and this would return you true if there's chocolate in either or.
There's chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate spill.
Oh, okay. So return true if chocolate spill in each.
In either of the two samples from the rivers.
If chocolate spill in either one of the two of the rivers. Okay. But where does the position help you?
The end goal of this is you're trying to see where the chocolate spill initially happened.
Okay. Okay, so if it's if the position that you're passed in has a chocolate spill in it.
Mm-hmm,
got it. Okay, I understand what the problem is asking now.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I was able to come up with the brute because initially I didn't know like how to solve it. So I was like, I came up with the brute force solution. Which was to visit each of the positions, sort of like the n square approach.
Okay.
And then I was as I was trying to think of the most optimal way. Then as I was thinking of the most optimal way, I thought of because these values are sorted in a way, right? So so then I said, okay, this because I was doing examples, and then the interviewer said, is there a way you can do this faster? What if one list is 1 million and one is smaller? So then that led me to think of a binary search.
Wait. What did you say? Do this faster and what?
Yeah, because as I was doing as I was trying to solve this problem, he just said, what if one list is 1 million and one is 10 million? So then this led me to thinking, why don't you iterate the small list and then you do a binary search on the second list, the largest one. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, I see what you're going for. Okay, so you could do a binary search on two rivers, where it's like, oh yeah, well, what happens if we cut one of the rivers in half, and then if it's true, then then you can try cutting the other river in half, and then if it's true, then cut the other river in half, etc. But if it's false, then you know it's in the latter half of the river or whatever. Yeah,
Correct,
I get
correct.
the idea. Um, okay, that's interesting. The thing I'm gonna narrow in on is like, how can you do this faster? As an example, it seems like you were throwing random examples at it at that point because you couldn't figure out like the trick to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of screw up here actually.
Mhm.
So basically, spitball examples because you got lost and didn't know how to deal with it. All right. Yeah. So this is, I would say, probably you probably did pretty weakly on this, but you were able to pull through with the hint. If I were to review this, the thing I would try going back is like, okay, well, how if we did step by step, right? Knowing the endpoint of where we want to get to is like, okay, well, the the inefficiency in the naive solution. Actually, instead of me doing it, why don't you do that exercise for me? If you had to redo the thing again, what were the things that you had to look at?
Okay, so yeah, so I come up with the n square solution, right? That's you're iterating one list and then you iterating the other list. The inefficiency in that is that you're gonna visit values multiple times, right?
Mhm.
Um, so so how can we go to a more optimal way, right?
Yep.
You can since the values, yeah, yeah. So I was thinking like let me just write this down. Because the river flows downstream, right?
Yep.
So it's like this, right? Da, 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 da. So one of the rivers has to have true, right?
Yep.
And then it's gonna return false at one time, right?
Sure.
So the goal was to find the value the value in either array that is with the shortest index, right? Because that tells you where the chocolate spill happened.
What do you mean shortest index?
But by shortest index, I mean starting from 0, going all the way to the end of the array.
Okay.
Because let's say these are two lists, right?
Well, again, what I don't understand shortest. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. What I mean is not shortest index. What I meant to say is what is the smallest index in both of the lists?
Okay, and how would you determine the smallest index?
So for example, so let's say we have this here, right?
Okay.
So if we have this, we can start iterating one. We can tell the lengths of the list. So what I want to do is I want to iterate the shortest list, and then inside the larger list, I can run run a binary search to tell me what is the first true value. So for example, I run binary search here. It sees that it's true. It cuts the list in half.
Okay.
So then it goes here.
I know, I understand the algorithm now, but I want you to kind of like consider what you said for the past minute. When I just asked you, hey, what is the index you're looking at? And then you just immediately described the algorithm first. You didn't describe the objective. You described the algorithm, then the objective. And that's kind of what's been screwing you for in our past sessions. You need to know what the target end goal is. So if you had just said where the index starts going from false to true, that's immediately understandable.
Okay.
Instead, you just jumped to the algorithm first, and I just asked you what the goal is. It's like saying you're gonna drive to a location when the location could just be Mumbai, India. In which case, oh wait, now I have to fly there. You know? You just said, how am I gonna get to a place? It's like, where are we going? And you said, oh, we're gonna drive there. And then I say, what if we're going to Mumbai? Can you drive to Mumbai from California or Texas?
Yeah.
So that's the equivalent of what you just did there. So I would be I think you should pay attention to that. So, okay. So yeah, I already understand the algorithm the moment you said that. And so the way I would have explained it, and this is just for me to show you the most simplest way, instead of trying to jump straight into the algorithm, is to say, okay, well, given this, all we're looking for is when the index turns false to true, right? And so the more efficient way would have been, okay, I just need to take these two indices and then look at iterate through the first river until the moment becomes false to true, iterate through the second river until the moment becomes false to true, and then return that, right? And then obviously that's order n time, and then you could say, hey, well, if I'm just scanning for it, then I can do a binary search on both of these. So that's, you see how like it needs to be like that much faster. Each logical fact needs to lead to the next one. That's the proper explanation. But what I suspect you did was you were looking for the algorithm without knowing how to describe the end solution that you were looking at. So this one was basically you did not declare what the goal or important factors you were looking for are. I think that's what led to Spitball. So I've kind of seen this. Like you basically had this thing where you stumble into the answer, but I think if you named exactly what you were looking for at each step and at each moment in time, and that was the important thing, I think it would give you a lot more guidance. So I'd recommend you start thinking about, like, again, what is the most important thing? What is the objective? What is the objective at the moment? That's, I think, the takeaway from that problem. Okay. So
okay, sounds good.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, so this one, I think it was their level up, right? Because for this one, I was only able to come up with the brute force solution. What this was, it was, I think it LeetCode its website usage patterns, website visit patterns, something like that.
Website usage patterns, okay. What's the problem?
Okay, yeah. So the problem, the thing is where is it? Okay. So here, you're given the user ID, you're given a web page, and then a timestamp, right?
Okay.
So you want to see the top 3 most visited sites, right?
Sure.
Most visited sites. Input is not sorted. Not sorted. Yeah, so what I did here was my brute force solution was to compile all the. I insert like, for example, the user IDs. I did a mapping to the timestamp and the web page, right? I then sorted these and then what I did was I visited so for example A, B, C, right? Then you have yeah, so you have these are sorted now, right? These are sorted now. So what I did was I visited each of these in this manner, right? Yeah, so you visit them. It's sort of like a sliding window.
Okay.
Yeah. So every time you move one, right? It's So yeah. So you visit all the web pages that the user visited, given the timestamp, right? Since it's sorted. So then insert into frequency map.
Yep. So you're gonna look at the sure.
So I inserted it into the frequency map, and then what I did was the Python library. There's a counter, right? It's the same. It's equivalent to a frequency map. It has a most common, which it uses a heap on the background.
Sure.
But this was not the most optimal way. So then I got stuck trying to come up with something more optimal. Like I was thinking, what if I do a try, right? I have A, B, C, and then I have the count here at the end. What else did I try? Yeah, I was trying a bunch of examples here because I could not leave the brute force way.
Okay.
I was thinking, shit, what if this is like one of those stupid math problems where it's like one of those prefix. Yeah, what if it's like one of those prefix problems, right? Like, what if one of those prefix, or what if I have to do some sort of XOR stuff? So that's what kind of got me stuck going to the most optimal.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So in other words, so let me rephrase the problem. So the problem is that you have a bunch of websites that you have a bunch of objects here, A, B, C, D, F, G. Each of those represents the user, web page, and timestamp. Is that correct?
Since we don't care about the user ID, we just care about the web pages. So these are web pages. and then we have various lists of user sorted by time,
Okay.
and then you have the web pages.
Okay, so A and B just represents really web page timestamp. Is that correct?
It's just a web page since it's already sorted.
Okay, it's already sorted for us.
I sorted it.
Okay, I'm starting to see where the issue is. Okay. So to rephrase the problem, we have a list of a bunch of visits from the, we have a list of a bunch of visits to web pages, right? Each web page has an ID, has a timestamp, and a user ID of who visited it, and we want to get the top 3 most visited sites. In a particular time period?
No, just overall.
Okay. So
okay.
Got it. Do we want this by unique user IDs, or do we not? Is it just like the web page hits?
We don't care. We just care that it's in that manner. Like for example, here I can have GHS and ABC.
Okay.
So here ABC would be our answer, the most common. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So my first question is, why the hell do you need to sort it?
Because it wasn't sorted. I asked the interviewer.
No. Why? How does that help?
It helps because you need to know the order that the user visited the web page. That's part of the solution. Is you want to see the path that the user took, and what is the most common path having 3 web pages.
Wait. Backtrack for me. Because what you just said before was we want the top 3 most visited sites. Now you're saying you want it for a particular user?
No. We want the top 3 sites visited. For example, ABC, and then for example, this is one user here, right? And this is another user. So
what is one user? What is another user?
This is user 1, right?
Okay.
And then here it's user 2.
Okay. So you're given So you're given what? Are you given a list of lists, or what?
Yes.
Format? Okay. You're given a list of lists. So this is where we need to be really clear about what the hell we're dealing with. So you're given a list of webs. Let's say pair of website timestamp, and these lists are ordered by user ID. Is that about right?
No, I had to do the sorting by user ID.
Okay, so in other words, what you're actually given is a list of class that contains all these.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So you're given this, and you just want the most frequent web page visited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't understand why sorting helps you here, because why the hell couldn't I just scan the list of all these, then just do a frequency count? What does sorting give me?
Because then you're not gonna have ABC in the order it was visited.
I don't need the order. I just need the top 3, right? Why do I need the order? Nowhere in the problem did you tell me that I need the order. You just said, give me the most frequent web page visited.
No. It has to be like here. It has to be the top 3. It has to be 3 websites visited.
Yes, like I said, the web page, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have let's say I have user ID 0, 1, and then like say 0, right? And then I have 1, and then let's say 1 web page 1, and then 1, or let's say 9. I don't understand where sorting helps me. All I need is the maximum web pages that are hit, right? I don't understand where sorting helps me. Why do I need it in a specific order? I just need top 3 most frequent. Explain this to me. Where does sorting help me?
Because you're giving a bunch of input. The input is not sorted. So, for example,
you're going to sorting. What part of the answer requires sorting? What top 3 most visited? Why do I care about sorting? How does sorting the input get me there?
Yeah. So what I meant by top 3 most visited is the top three web pages visited by user. Fuck, let me see. Let me try to better explain this.
Yeah, because you're not doing a good job.
Yeah.
This is like I'm trying to work on this with you, trying to make sure that hey, before anything comes out of your mouth, you think about what you really want to tell the interviewer. What is the most, or the other person? What is the most important thing that they should focus on, and what isn't? And then everything else fills in that detail. So I really want you to think about what exactly are you talking about with top 3 most visited sites. Because I just described the algorithm, right? Because it's literally just look at every single web page. So I like web pages like 1, 4, 6, 5, like this shit. Then the answer is just gonna be 1, like for the top, and I just do a frequency map on this shit. I think anyone can see that.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, where the hell does sorting come in?
Okay, so you don't want the.
Think about what is the most important thing you want to tell me. What is the critical goal? What is the critical thing to understanding this problem here? Or if you have the leak code problem, just copy paste it and I'll try figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure where the block is, but okay.
Yeah, let me try to find a different one because that one requires premium.
Okay. Just link me the premium one or something. I don't know. Okay, I think I found it. Problem analyze user web visit pattern or whatever it is. Okay. Okay, so it looks like someone has a Medium article on it, so... Okay, got it. Okay, so I found the text, so let me paste it in here. Okay. I think this is the right one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're given in 2 string arrays, user and website and integer array timestamp. All the given arrays are of the same length, and you have a tuple here. Okay, indicating that user has visited times... So user I... website timestamp. Okay, these are, yeah, so I was correct here. You're given a list of this. Okay, fine. Website, a pattern is a list of 3 websites. For example, home, away, love, and link love and are all patterns. The score of a pattern is the user that visited all the websites in the pattern in the same order. For example, if the pattern is home, away, love, the score is the number of users X, such that X visited home and visited away and visited love after that. Okay, now I'm starting to see. So you're given a pattern, and then the score is the number of users that have visited. Okay, got it. So you have a thing called a pattern, and you return the pattern with the largest score. Is that what you're trying to say here?
Yeah.
Okay, notice here, top 3 most visited sites. Do you understand why someone might be confused?
Yeah.
In other words, the key to understanding this is that you're given this, and your goal is to describe this pattern here. The most important thing is the score of this pattern. And so the question now becomes, okay, what do you mean score of this pattern? So what I mean by a pattern is a sequence of words. And the score is the number of times this sequence of words is accessed. Do you understand how easy that was if you just think about what is the most important thing for the person to understand, and where might they be confused? That's it. If you just, I think that's something you're really struggling with. So I'm not quite sure how to help you, other than to keep giving you examples.
Okay.
And it's gonna be something that I would recommend you try to spend some time thinking about in your everyday life. Like if you catch yourself rambling, or if you find yourself talking too much, then you really need to think about how to revise it. And this is an active process, so I can tell you like how to explain things, right? But it's up to you to really try practicing it. So it's a common problem, and you need to I would say you need to focus on it every day. in your everyday life.
Okay. For sure.
All right.
For
So
sure.
I understand why you decide sorting it because you want to try and get the order of the pattern.
Mhm.
The question now becomes: is the order of the pattern sorted?
Asking the interview, he said it wasn't sorted.
Okay.
Because each you got your user, you got the Science app, and then you got what they visited. So that wasn't sorted. That was given right away.
Okay. So the pattern is not sorted. All right. Okay. So then the next thing would be okay. Well, what is the most naive way you I would guess the most naive way is to count all the different ways. Is this, you separate it by user IDs into a bunch of different lists, and then for each user, you check to see, and that's where you sort each individual lists by the web page, and then you check to see if this sequence exists in each of those lists. That's basically what your algorithm is.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So then now that means that the runtime is going to be order n for the number of user IDs because you need to separate each one, and then for each one you do n log n operation to sort it for web page, and then you, or say n here plus n log n to sort it, and then you scan each one again to try and find the match these tuples or whatever. So n times yeah, I think it's n times some factor here. I think that's basically what your runtime is. And so this factor is going to be okay. Well, it depends on how efficient you are at scanning and sorting scanning and detecting these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not very efficient, then you're going to be doing n every single time you do a pattern here. So you're going to n times x, where x is the number of patterns. Let's start naively, right?
Okay. Yep.
And so now, what is the inefficiency here?
The inefficiency is the n times x, where you're scanning over all the patterns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at the same data set over and over again for each pattern. Okay, so then you could optimize that by being able to look at multiple patterns at once. Right?
Right.
So in the same data set, you could look at every single pattern, right? So the thing that would come to mind is that for each pattern, you have a pointer to each pattern. So the way to solve that would be like pointer to each. So let's say you have a list of patterns, right? Patterns, pointer to each of the patterns as you encounter each word in the list. Advance the pointer if it matches the word in the pattern for each of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I would probably do it. Wait, but then you would be looking at the length of each. Yeah, I think you would then end up like with a what's it called? Then you get n times y, where y is the. Actually, no, that doesn't actually get a little. That doesn't actually get better. Oh, it might.
What if we do a frequency map here? Because you're just doing like you're doing a lookup into a dictionary, right? And then you just update that count if you see that pattern again.
Well, if you do a frequency map, then how do you know it's in the right order?
As your server. Oh, yeah, that's true. Sure. You would have to iterate all the users list, and that's inefficient. So
yeah. So I'm saying that this is probably the first step to straightening out, because for each so if you go through each one of the user web pages and stuff, then you're gonna look at each one of the pointers, and then at each one of the pointers of the pattern, and each time you advance the pointer, right? And so then I would say, okay, this is still inefficient because you're doing n times y, which is the length of the pattern on average, times yeah, this operation here is like, because you're gonna, each time you advance through the data set, n is number of users, y length pattern, and then each time you advance to the data set, so that let's call it q, whatever. So it's still close to n times x. So you're still looking at each and every single each time you're still looking at each and every single pattern. So you need to make this like a very fast lookup time somehow. The next thing I would say is, okay, well, how do we make this faster? we would need to be able to. Yeah. This pattern is gonna need to be need to be a very fast lookup. Somehow we need to be able to do that. And the hash map comes to mind, right? But the thing is that we would need to hash each. No, no, because you're doing even if it's a constant time operation, you're still looking up each and every single one. So then the next thing would be. So you can't reduce that because each of the lookups you still need to advance the pointers, right? So the next thing would be okay. Well, we can't shorten that up. So the next thing we can do is try to look at every single. Yeah. No. So the next thing to do is okay. Well, instead of trying to look at each and every single one and sort it, what I would do is actually take the list as is, and then for each pattern, and then for each pattern, look at the front, and if the word matches the pattern at a known pointer or front of a pattern, advance. I think that's the way to do it. And then at the end, you count the number of pointers that have made it to the end. I think that's the way to do it. Of course, this is like a suboptimal way because like I said, you're constantly looking at each pointer, which is kind of the interesting part. So, the more interesting one would be. Yeah. The next thing that comes to my mind is a graph actually now because then you would have to say okay because different words can be part of different patterns, and then you just flag which one's going to be the end of which one, or it could be the beginning of another pattern.
I see.
This is it's actually not that. It requires a lot of thinking, but you can kind of see like where I'm trying to go with this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I think it would take me some time, but I'm not quite sure if I could come up with the code for it. But I'm gonna bet that it has something to do with pointers and a heap. I'm gonna bet it's like something to do with pointers and a limited heap. That's where my instinct is going.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but I would say that the problem here was probably you didn't understand exactly how to focus on the objective here. I think you kind of got a little bit hung up on sorting. That's at least my instinct from what you just described to me.
Yeah. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, yeah, sorry you cut off. Yep.
Yeah, no. My instinct here is that you kind of got hung up on sorting and stuff rather than the objective. So it's kind of the same mistake. And tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think that you kind of got hung up on the algorithm rather than where you're trying to go with it.
Yeah, man. I got caught up there. I couldn't think of a more optimal way here. At the end, I thought of like a try, inserting these words into a try, and then maintaining a count at the end. You maintain some sort of heap, right? And then you just pop off the top 3. But that wasn't the path to go. The interviewer said. Yeah,
no. Try would not help you here. I mean, technically, I understand where you're going with the try, but, yeah, but because keep in mind, like some words can be the beginning of other patterns that are in the middle of other patterns, so I don't think that's the right way to go. Anyway, this is a pretty difficult problem, I would say.
Yeah. I don't think it's a medium. So.
Yeah, it's not a medium, but I think you would have been expected to at least get through it. So this is definitely a question that I would definitely recommend you at least study and try to figure out how and do a reverse engineer on it. But the biggest one I would say is keep your eye on the objective.
Okay.
Yeah, keep eye on objective because based on the way you described the problem, it was pretty shit. I'm not gonna lie, it's absolutely dog shit. And this but then also like try to figure out how to solve this problem in the future. I would say definitely you I feel like the way I did it, I think this probably would have gotten you closer to the answer if I was. I mean, so I think that you could have done a little bit better if you drew stuff out and you followed more inefficiency. So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is me doing it in my head, but I mean, I'll try drawing this problem afterwards. But my instinct says keep the eye objective and draw it out, and then try to identify inefficiencies and shit. So anyway, okay, let's go. Without spending too much time, let's go to the last one. Was those the only 3 problems you got?
Yeah. The next one was system design.
Okay.
Design pastebin.
Design what?
Pastebin.
A basement.
Pastebin. Pastebin. Sorry.
Pastebin. Okay, so this is a problem that you've
Paste.
seen before.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so you should not have
Yeah.
fucked this one up.
No. So the thing with this one is like, okay, I'm gonna put like the blobs into like object storage. Then like the interview asked like, oh, would you use S3 for this, or what would you do here? So I guess they were like trying to see like what technologies I would use, like real technologies, instead of just saying like object store, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
So they actually want you to call out specific technologies. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's just style by person, right? Not everyone's gonna say that.
Some might. The reason why I say
Okay.
I in our practice I said, hey, don't worry too much about the specific technologies, is that most of the time 90% of the interviewers want you to know the basic mechanics and then match to an existing technology. This is more of like a bullshit meter reading. If it's like, oh, have you actually worked with stuff like this or not?
Okay.
That's
okay,
really
okay,
what I
okay.
think the question is at. What he's really trying to gauge here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
As long as you can say like one way to do it. I mean, you could say terablob for all I know. But it's like, hey,
Okay.
it's like they're trying to find something to deep dive into. That's really it.
Mm-hmm.
But were you able to at least call out something specific?
I just said S3. I can easily scale it up and down based on users, based on usage, right? So
Yeah, it's a simplified data store, so it's just buckets.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Why the hell not? You don't
Yeah,
need anything
and,
like too fancy.
yeah. And with when I was doing the key generation service, right? We got to that part. That part, like, I was explaining to him, and then I asked him, "Do you want me to draw it out?" And he's like, "No, it's okay. I understand where you're going with this." And then also for the doing a leader and multiple a single leader and multiple followers. So, for example, all my writes would go to the leader, right, and the reads would go to the followers.
Yes.
So I explained that a bit, and I asked him, "Hey, you want me to deep dive on this or draw it out?" And he said, "No, it's fine. I know what you're doing here." So,
Okay, that's fine. I would say that based on what you just said, I don't think you did anything that raised necessarily red flags, but I don't think he got like a strong signal either. So I think he's borderline. So based on what you just told me, across everything, the third problem really hurt you. I think.
Yeah.
First one was okay, you did well. Second one, you like I said, you kind of sucked at explaining it. So I don't know how well you did it.
Yeah.
Looks like yeah. So you had to need a hint there, and third one, you just completely collapsed the website usage pattern one. So I would say most likely you did not pass this one.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah,
it
for
kind
this
of comes down to like objective and being able to grow the problem. I think that's like you definitely struggle with like the problems that aren't very straightforward. Okay. Other than that, I think that you pretty much did how I expected actually. So.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see what they come back with. You know, I've been wrong before. You know, people have passed when I expect them to fail, and people have failed when they expect them to pass and whatnot.
Yeah. With this one, I did go into it tired, so I mean that's not an excuse, right, to use. But yeah, I think for the next one, I'd be better rested and more well prepared. So that's just some reflection there.
Could you, by any chance, reach out this week to some companies and see if you could schedule another interview for like a few weeks before we do Google? So maybe like
okay.
Yeah, next.
Oh,
like, next 2 weeks.
That's like the interesting thing that you brought up. I had made a recruiter reach out to me, and then I talked to him today, and he said, "Oh, thanks for taking the time. By the way, we're kind of slow. We're gonna slow down hiring, and the positions aren't open anymore." So that was a kind of like. Yeah, I don't know where the market's going with this, so it kind of caught me off surprise because these guys are always hiring. So
yeah, I mean it's just the next 12 to 18 months. The reason why is because I want you to get a little bit more practice with this. I feel like one of the things that you really struggle with is when you actually have to do it in person outside of a outside of a whiteboard. It's that if you don't get it practice with a person, I feel like some people just end up like they just can't make that transition or jump. And I think you're probably one of those people where it's like you actually need someone to practice with.
Okay.
At least that's my sense right now.
Okay.
Other than that, I think that. Oh, here's an interesting idea. Jay actually hasn't gotten his offer from Google, and I have no idea what the fuck's happening on that front. So here's an interesting thing we could do on Thursday. You two could interview each other and then grade each other, and then I could watch, actually. And I think that would help because you would be able to do an interview for him, he would be doing an interview from you, and then you can see, like, his mistakes, he can see your mistakes. I think it would help both of you, actually.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll message him, see if he is open to doing that. And it'll be a good practice for you. You can also like see how frustrating it is on the other side. Say, hey, I've made this mistake. Don't make it, or recognize mistakes in other people.
Yeah. What position was he going for, by the way?
He's going for an L3, but again, like both of you are kind of in a similar position for data structure and algorithms. So this is probably a sign that I'm doing something wrong here. So I'm gonna try this out if you guys are.
Okay. Yeah. So when I talked to the recruiter from Google, they said that they were slowing down with the L3s. So I don't know if that's what's happening to him.
Yes.
Because for the L4, they said L4 above, they were still hiring.
Yes.
They called me for that. So
yes.
they could just be like on a hiring freeze there. And it sucks if they're not reaching out to him, right? So
okay. Yeah, that's fine. But again, I think it helps for you to get some practice because I've worked with him.
Yeah.
He should have an eye for this shit, and you should have an eye for this shit as well. Although you should have a better eye. Okay. With that in mind, I think that's fine. Behavioral interview. Let's talk a little bit about that. Do you need like 5 minutes? Since I know we kind of spent a lot of time talking.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Okay. Got it. So let's talk about the behavioral interview. Let's kind of like talk. Let's see like what stories you did and roughly for each one of the 3 questions that you got and whatnot.
For that, let me see if I still have the notes. 1 second. Yeah, so for this one, I don't remember the exact questions because I know for one they asked me like I totally avoided the question I bombed on our last session, which was that making an abstract class. So yeah, so
you bombed on this behavioral.
No. Everything went well. Like there wasn't a point where I was stuck where I fumbled my words. Everything was fluid. Like there was one that.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You said you fumbled your words.
No, I didn't. Like I did on our last session.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't fumble my words or stumble on any ideas that I was talking about. With this one, I did try to sprinkle some leadership stuff in there. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the notes where I had the stories. Yeah, like I talked about that caching project that brought down the staleness of the data. I also talked about the team lead position.
Okay.
Also talked about writing an API for an external team.
Okay.
Also talked about adding a linter. Like, for example, they asked me, did you ever have a conflict with a coworker? Then I talked about introducing a linter since there was a lot of developers joining the team. There was different code styles. So introducing this linter and adding it to our continuous integration pipeline, that helped clean out the code and made it easier to read. Also talked about a story where I added alerts to catch all these errors during holiday season.
Okay.
Also talked about adding the HTML tool and just reducing errors from non-technical users.
Okay.
So it did help going over those with you because I was just rambling too much, and it just made it more succinct to talk about these things and not like run out of breath. So.
Good. Yeah, I think you could have done. And considering that it was like only 1 day or 2 days of practice, I think you should have. I would definitely say take this week if you can to at least kind of like rehearse a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, rehearse the short stories, the short stories, like the 30-second versions. A lot of them should roll off your tongue, like and you should always like imagine if tomorrow you met Mark Zuckerberg and Mark says, "Hey, I'd be willing to hire you, but you gotta impress me. Go." It's kind of like that thing, right? And that's effectively what the interview is, isn't it? So you kind of need to have those prepared stories of like, hey, these are like at least 3 strong stories of what you got going. So I definitely recommend rehearsing those. But okay, so how did you respond? I would say I'm more interested in like the types of questions these interviewers asked you when they're going to press you on these stories, right? So what angles did they cover? What and where did you feel like you did well? What questions did you feel like you kind of crumbled?
I know there was a lot of follow-up questions like, "Oh, what technology did you use here? What else?" Yeah, there was a lot of follow-ups like on technologies, like how did you monitor this?
Data what?
How did you deal with? How did you monitor this? How did you
How many?
deal
How
with
did
conflict?
you bundle what?
How did you monitor this?
Oh, how did you monitor this? Okay.
How did you check everything's working correctly? They're basically like it's like what you said earlier with the system design. It's just trying to gauge you as a candidate, right? Like, do you really know what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're gonna you heard me say they're gonna press you. They're gonna make sure, hey, are you the real deal or not? So that's fine. As long as you kind of answered those, I was actually more surprised that they actually asked you about specific technologies rather than like, how would you respond XYZ way or have a more detailed discussion. I'm actually very surprised. Is there any kind of question that you felt like they were they kind of like poke and prodded you more so than usual? And did you try tying it back to like their leadership principles and the leveling?
Yeah. So there was a question that they asked me like how I think how do you deal with constructive criticism or how do you handle negative feedback, right?
Sure.
So then I said, okay, I can think about my first job in the industry. I was told that I was slow as an engineer. So what I did was I constantly asked for feedback from my manager. I read up on tech blogs. I talked to other coworkers, basically learning the ropes and how to improve my efficiency as a developer. And then they asked me, was there any metrics that how did you know your process was working? Was there any metrics in place there? So yeah.
Okay, so what's remarkable about this question? So like I said, hey, what do you feel like you got pressured on, right? And you brought up this one. Why do you feel like this one was the most pressured?
Yeah, I think I didn't explain it right back at the okay. Yeah, I think I didn't have a good story for this one because this one I said it on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you take like 30 seconds to really think about the story?
No.
There you go.
I took about 10, 15. So that's another thing is like they ask you a question, so I don't know how long a candidate should wait to answer this.
Well, you're going to want to find the story that best answers the question, right? That's going to take some time. Not everyone's going to have the right story on hand at all times. And so I would say as long as you acknowledge that you heard the question, you could just say something like, hey, that's a good question. Let me think about it. You could say also, the way I would have said if I needed some time, I said, there's a lot of times where I have received a lot of constructive criticism. That's kind of how I've been able to progress through my career. Let me think about the best one. That's one way I would answer that question to buy myself some time.
Okay.
And it's just like, just like, like 10 seconds, and then drink water, takes 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Deep breath takes you another 5 seconds. I just bought you 20 seconds right there.
Yeah.
It's I think everyone just expects to have a fast answer, and they confuse it for a good answer, and I think that's a very big mistake. So
yeah, agreed.
I think that a good analogy I can make here is, do you follow hip hop or anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar with the Drake and Pusha T beef, right?
Oh, I didn't know they were beefing.
No, they were beefing back. I'm using the 2018 one, like 2016 to 2018. They were beefing. I still think they're kind of like in a cold war right now, but but you know where I'm going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for the audience who doesn't know, basically they've been going back, and Pusha T and Drake kind of went back and forth for like a few years, and then what? I think it was Drake's Two Birds One Stone or something like that, and he basically starts sub dissing Pusha T a lot more, and then Pusha T comes back and calls out Drake in Daytona, where he's like, "Hey, you've been sub dissing me for a while. Now I'm gonna dedicate an entire song to dissing you and calling you out." Like, what it was, Infrared. Infrared was the song. And he's like, "Yeah, you're using ghostwriters." Actually, let me bring up the lyrics for that one. That's a good one. I'm surprised how I fucking remember this one.
Yeah.
Infrared. Yeah. Let me bring that up. Pusha T, Infrared. Okay. Yeah. It was written like Nas, but it came from quitting at the mercy of a game where the code's missing, where the CEO is blind by the glow. That's different. Tom Brady. Flash of the fire. Platinum. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's cram numbers easily. The only rapper who sold more dope than me was Eazy-E. How could you ever write these wrongs when you didn't even write your songs? But let's all play along. He's like, he's calling out Drake for being a ghostwriter,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly saying it here, but it was written like Nas, but it came from Quentin Miller being like the ghostwriter who is accused of writing Drake's songs, right? I don't tap dance for crackers and sing Mammy. This is probably referencing a lot of like Drake songs that does that shit, right? And of course everyone like says, "Oh, Drake responded within a day with a dumpy freestyle and stuff," right? And everyone confused a bad response for a good response. But if you really take the content of that song, it's like it's recycling old disses. Like, "Oh, you didn't write your," it's like, "Oh, you weren't really a drug dealer," and "Oh yeah, Kanye, I'm problem with you, bro." It's really like the exact same like disses and sub disses that he's come at Push for, right? And good music. And then you come out, and then Pusha T takes his sweet ass time and then delivers "Story of Adidon," And that took some time, but I think pretty much he could have killed Drake's career with that. I think anyone who knows hip hop will straight up say Pusha T won with "Story of Adidon." He killed Drake's Adidas deal with that. Revealed to the world that Drake had a son in hiding and he was hiding it. And a whole bunch of other shit. So, you tell me. Drake was fast to the punch 24 hours after the album got dropped, and then Pusha T drops a really good ass diss like 3 months after. So you tell me, which side would you rather be on?
Just sound there like a sniper, right? Waiting.
Yeah, take your fucking time. If you don't have a good fat pitch or a hard shot, don't take it. I'm bringing this hip hop stuff up because I think a lot more people connect with it, right? It's hard to say, like, oh, if I bring up, like, investments and Warren Buffett and all that shit, it gets kind of abstract because, yeah, I've heard all that, whatever. But, like, I think people really understand, like disses and battle rap a whole lot more. And so I'm literally bringing this up just to say, hey, the people who take their time, like, tend to come up with a fucking good response. Even, like, Nas's Ether, when he responded to Hove. That took some fucking time. It took a few albums, right?
Yep.
Like, let me think, what else?
Yeah, even he said it, like, damn, Nas killed me on that one.
Yeah, and Nas and if you didn't know, Nas actually rewrote Ether. He wrote the first version, but then it got scrapped because it was so bad. And so he took his time to write the second version, and that's the one we know and love, and just completely destroys. Yeah. So, yeah, like, I think that if you, as long as you take your time, and you come out with a very good result, you're gonna have, no one's gonna complain. If the fact that people like constantly delay projects in art, right? Like was it My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Watch the Throne constantly delays, but it
Yeah,
comes out
yeah.
with a fucking work of art that stands the test of time. Even 10 years later, you can listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and and still find it's very fucking good. So if you can get something like that on the table where the person's gonna remember you and remember you in a very good way, why would you take the extra 30 seconds?
Mhm.
So it's about betting on yourself and being confident that you're gonna come up with a very good answer. If you rush to it, then who the fuck cares if it's like garbage? So I think you should remember that it's better to take a good shot than 3 lousy shots.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
okay. That's going to be it from me. I don't think other than that. I think that yeah. This thing on keeping your eye on the objective and then being able to explain it very simply.
Yeah.
I think if you just
Yeah,
like kind of
yeah.
practice that in your everyday life, even in your career, I think
Okay.
it helps you out a lot, and it'll help you out in the interview as well. Do you notice that you kind of ramble when talking at your everyday work?
Yeah, sometimes I think I go into the things that don't matter a lot. That's what I've noticed. I've been catching myself there.
Yes.
So, like with the system design, like I would like focus on the things that don't matter. So,
Yes.
and also that transpires into everyday things, right? So,
Yes.
I've been catching myself more. So,
Yeah.
Definitely working on that.
Good. Because it's kind of like a habit thing, right? So I'd recommend you at least try it in your work. I think a lot of people will notice it, and if you practice it in your work, then it will happen here too. I think this is one of those few things where real life habits bleed into the
work,
interview.
yep.
Because everyone says, "Oh, the
Okay.
interview doesn't work." No, it works because what you do in one area of life, you're going to do in the other area. In this case,
Yep.
like just because you rambled here, I can tell you ramble in everyday life too. So it's consistent. So I think that if you at least try making an active effort in your workplace to do it instead of
Yeah.
like just the interview only, I think a lot of people will notice it. I think you'll benefit from it too. What do you think?
Yeah. It's like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So it's like always think about like what's the objective, what's most important to this person, how can this person confuse it with something else or with another idea that they might have, etc., etc. How do I keep things simple and memorable? It's always the best way. So,
Okay.
anything that is on your mind? You know, like I mean, we booked 2 hours, but I can let you go early if you just kind of want to take the rest of the
Okay.
night off.
So with the objective, that like leads back to scoping, right? Because you essentially you're talking like what's most important, right? And what's more how to do things in a simple way.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'll note that and talk about that, and then also explaining things more succinctly.
Yes.
That's something I have to do.
So I recommend. Yeah. So I think I gave my list of people who, you want to like emulate their speech patterns. So let me type that out. So speech. So Charlie Munger is 1v1. Munger, Lee Kuan Yew, previous leader of Singapore. I mean, to be fair, I'm gonna say I still say Kanye because even though he rambles a bit, he caught his energy, not his rambling.
Yeah.
Not rambling. Because, you know, of course, this fucker's incomprehensible to a lot of people, and I don't recommend you speak like him, so I'm going to put them at the below list. But let me think who else is a good orator. Yeah, I mean, like, you could I'll say Warren Buffett is in the same category, because they kind of talk a little bit similarly, except Charlie Munger with fewer words. So I think actually Charlie Munger's probably better in that regard.
Okay.
Let me think who else is a good speech. Good ability to talk. I would say even Kevin Spacey, if you watched House of Cards, the way he talks, like with the southern accent. Well, maybe you're not the common southern accent, but the way he like kind of talks in his dialogues and his soliloquies, is also a good one. So if you can if you're okay with like rewatching House of Cards, I think he has a very good way of talking. It's a little bit of charm, right? And of course, it's a little bit more eloquent, but you can tell it's still very simple. The length of the words he talks. Well, let me think. Well, who else? Oh, Tim Cook actually. Tim Cook talks very well actually. Like when he's trying to say, I'm thinking of like the clip where he explains the, I think it was a CNBC or CNN interview where he talks about not putting a backdoor into software. So that's probably a good interview to watch.
To the iPhones.
Yeah, like a backdoor or hacking into iPhone. Because I think this is around time of the San Bernardino incident, and people were trying to like say, oh, the FBI was like, or CIA was subpoenaing him for like, oh yeah, you need to install a backdoor into iPhone so we can access it to get data, you know. And I think if you talk about the way he talks about the complexity of cybersecurity and makes it simple, I think it's a really good example. So he's like, it's the software equivalent of cancer. He gave you the soundbite, right? he understand, and you kind of understand what he's talking about. Like, hey, if we do this to one device, we're gonna do this for every single device. I think Tim Cook's a very, very good orator, and he's also very bland, which is great because it means that he tends to be very objective. At least that's the way I feel when he talks. So I think he's a very good person to emulate as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I think like copying the speech patterns of people who are older and more mature, I think is definitely the right way to go. I mean, obviously, you can also look in your own workplace, look at the highest ranking technical lead, and try to see how he talks, actually. Yeah, in your own workplace.
Okay.
I'm very certain that he's going to basically only focus on like the short, simple ideas and not dive into the details. I think, plus like listening to him is also obviously a very good idea for your career because like, hey, whatever he talks about and knows, I should probably know.
Yeah, exactly.
So copying him, it's going to be an exercise that helps you here in the interview and also for your career. So that's probably my short list.
Okay.
Any other thoughts that you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. So. Yeah, I'm gonna analyze this some more and just trying to see, just talk about all the points that we did and try to analyze more on the interview. Because I tried to do it Saturday, but I just kind of like, I just got overwhelmed. I just so tired, so I didn't get to really do a deep, thorough analysis on that. So for sure, I'll look at that some more.
Yeah, no, don't you have to do it? You don't have to do it this week. I really want you to take a break. And then you come back next week. But remember, each step, each thing that you say just has to have an objective. Every point you want to express needs to be there, and then you go to the next one. You give the person enough example, then go for the idea. And sometimes that helps, but again, that's shooting from the hip, and it's only something you do when you don't have the idea. So I'll recommend that if you can, like, just literally do like a Google search, not a Google search or a YouTube search. I don't know if you drive or commute to work. But literally, just put one of these guys on YouTube. I always say start with Charlie Munger and just listen to like some random clip of him talking or like an interview he does on the news channel, like on CNN or something like that. Or even like the way he answers like shareholder questions at Daily Journal. Yeah. Like you punch his name in, I'm sure you'll find many examples.
Cool. Okay, so from now until Thursday, just focus on those 2 or 3 things we talked about, right? Anything else you recommend
Mostly
there?
just focus on resting because I don't want you to burn out before we start back up next week.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
And try to secure some other interviews. That's really it.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool, man. Yeah. That kind of took me by surprise there. I don't know if it's like a sign of the market or what's going on. So.
No, it is. Don't worry about it too much. Again, you do what you can. You can't control the market, so why fuck bother paying attention to it?
Why worry about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think in one of your videos you said like, oh shit, what if I join Uber and then I lose my job right away?
Yeah, no. Look, if I have the balls to fucking jump into a company that was on the verge of like, dying, where they had to fucking cut 25% of their labor force, and I'm willing to have the balls to jump. At that point, I think most people have the balls to jump when, when it's relatively stable. They might not be hiring, but they're certainly not firing people en masse. So believe me, this is a much easier circumstance for you than it was for me.
Yeah. Okay. The pandemic's over, so that's another thing, right? So,
yeah. And plus,
one thing less to worry about.
Plus, you still have your job, and you're still relatively going. And everything we talked about is going to feed back into it. So regardless of what happens, you're still going to get something out of it. So.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm already seeing the progress. Like compared to how I interviewed last year, it's much better. So.
Good, but it can always be better, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Hey. Any other thoughts?
Cool. No, that's it for today.
All right, sounds good. Then I'll let you go early.
So see you Thursday or next Tuesday?
See you Thursday. Unless you want to take the day off, then let me know ahead of time. Otherwise, I'll see you then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if we meet Thursday, what would we do then?
So I'm gonna make you do the interview. I make you and Jay interview each other. Just for like practice and stuff, so that way you guys can see like with the mistakes you're making. It's more like
can we put?
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we push that to Tuesday just to get some more rest?
Yeah. Sure. We can push that next Tuesday, but then do you want to pick this Thursday then?
Sure. Yeah. Just rest.
Sure. I'll cancel this Thursday. That's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, take care.
All right, thanks, man. See ya.
All right, see you. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right. Any questions from the crowd? I mean, like we kind of have like a. I don't know. I booked 2 hours for this, but if we have an hour, I can do like. I can talk about whatever the fuck you guys want, you know. It could be company valuations. It could be like the state of the tech industry. It could be like whatever I've written in my Discord. Oh, by the way, join that. I post a lot of interesting stuff there. My thoughts on like the nature of tech industry, some interesting readings, and I communicate quite a bit with you guys. So, if you haven't joined the Discord, links in the description. Edbert, are you taking students right now? Is there a likelihood that there will be a free spot available? Here's the thing. There might be an opening, but the thing is that I really want these two that I have on my roster to get offers. That's the thing. So before I take on anyone else, I really want to clear out my current list. I think I have an obligation as their long-term coach to make them a priority. So I would say that most likelihood long-term is not going to open up till January. Because the way I see it, I don't know if they're going to get a response in time. And, you know, once you get like you interview in, let's say, October, November, then you kind of have to go through committee, and the earliest you're going to hear is December, except for the fact that December is a slow month. So they could, by all means, like, probably hear back by January. So we'll see. When do you think they will clear out? Yeah, January is probably the time. I will throw you a bone, though. If people are interested in taking, like, a Thursday session and streaming it, message me, and we'll discuss something. Because this Thursday, you know, he just canceled, right? So why the hell not? I'll give someone who is watching right now, like, a session. So feel free to message me on Discord or send me an email if you're interested, and I'll let you know tonight. I'll put some Dota on, I guess, while I'm waiting for some questions to trickle in.
Even the best journeys end.
A new free-to-play experience. Oh no, is this Overwatch 2? It's Overwatch 2! Overwatch 2 actually is out. Huh. I know they shut down Overwatch 1 servers, but I'm like, dang. They actually shut down Overwatch 1. Makes you kind of wonder, why didn't they just upgrade Overwatch? Oh, wait, Overwatch 2 is free now? Huh. Maybe I'll give that a shot tonight, or maybe I'll just play Dota. I don't freaking know. Huh. Yeah, actually, you know what? How about this? If anyone in the crowd has a company valuation they want me to do, I'll do one for you guys. Otherwise, and the first one who calls it out, I'll do it. So, got you. You said that December's a slow month for Google. Are you saying that even if I ace the interview, you won't plan on scheduling it? That I'm planning for scheduling in December, they won't? No. So, they'll schedule it for December, right? And they'll do the interview in December, but they won't get back to you till January. That's the thing. Google's notoriously slow, and you can double down on it if, and they'll be especially slow if they don't have enough interviewers and they don't have enough people in the committee and whatnot. So I'm saying that taper your expectations. If it takes like Google 6 weeks to do shit, then it's going to take you 12 weeks. Or I shouldn't say 12. It should take you 8 weeks for you to hear back. So let's say you do an interview in January, right? You kind of expect like 3 weeks. Then I would say you expect mid-January, actually. As opposed to, let's say you did your interview in October. Then you can hear back by the third week of October. But if you did your interview in December, then you hear back in January. That's all I'm saying. I have a Google interview in 3 weeks, and they had to schedule because of the recruiter gave me a 4-week window max or withdraw the application. But I don't feel ready. What do you advise? If you withdraw your application, honestly, like there's no point in taking a shot that you don't fucking feel ready for. That's what I would do. Like I said in the the session today, what good is taking a shot if you don't fucking take a good ass shot at it? It's like if you take a lousy shot, then you have like your 12-month cooldown, right? So why wouldn't you just wait a while, wait like 3 months to get good, and then go for it? That's at least the way I think about it. My virtual on-site for Google, they allow me to schedule out by 3 months. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's for the on-site, not the phone screen. I think the phone screen is different. But hey, what do I know? Okay, so Bristle's farming. This is a carry Bristle. Wait, is this a carry or mid Bristle? This looks like carry Bristle actually. Yeah, it's a carry Bristle. Crimson makes sense because you're trying to block the zoo. So is the Visage Familiars and the animals, which makes sense. I think he's ready to fight here. Ags first, not Halberd. Why would you go Halberd? Because the only thing that kills you here is if Bane grips you. And Slark's just is gonna punch. Well, Slark can't really man fight you. You might have to Defusal and then just like burn your mana and then just run away. Actually, yeah. The Halberd doesn't actually. Oh, he's going AC now. Okay, yeah. AC accomplishes more or less the same thing. That makes more sense.
Палка просто въебал кайфов нахуй. Просто.
It's like he's hoping for
Yep.
for
Когда мы подходим с аппаратом. Сразу
Yeah, I guess he's trying to tank up for the team. That makes sense. But that means Lycan's not gonna go for the AC. So what the hell does Lycan go for? Because you go Helm Dom, and then you go into Vlad's, and then Impact. Yeah. I think the Lycan just builds push and aura. I think that's actually the way to play it. But then what the hell is the Monkey King build? Defusal? Because you basically have two people farming, and then you have the Lycan who can just die whenever. So the Monkey's okay, man. I think it's Maelstrom. I don't know. I don't think the Maelstrom's the right build. I think you go Defusal here. That's if you're there, and you go Defusal BKB. Because like Slark's gonna get completely destroyed by Defusal, and if you just like throw up the arena, then you kind of screw up. You kind of screw up everybody with it. I don't think you need wave clear. You already have enough push and stuff with Bristle. Hi. Hey, what's up? Hey, Red One. What's up? Did you do a phone screen? I aced the online assessment. I tried to schedule it further out, but they were very firm. Someone suggested reschedule when the interview was 1 week out. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on flexibility, right? It just kind of knows. I don't know if they have leniency on gender or not. Let me schedule it out for December. I basically just kind of rule out the gender thing, to be honest. I don't see it as an advantage or disadvantage one way or the other. Yeah, but like I said, you can't really, it's like, you don't really have too much control. I mean, yeah, you can reschedule it, but I always think they should schedule it for when you are ready. If you're not ready, don't schedule it, right? You know? I think that's the best way to think about it. It's like, no matter what the time and deadlines are, it's like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. That's the way I think about it. Okay, there's more. Oh, he's gonna.
Я не понимаю.
Oh, yeah, he's actually got.
Чел на Monkey King
he
меня троллит или
lives,
что,
Jesus.
блядь? Я не понимаю.
Okay,
Ты долбоёб?
Roar's
Не
down.
нажимай
You just
стан,
shove out
не
like that.
нажимай. Пожалуйста, я тэпнусь. Мы начнем его чезить, понимаешь?
Yeah,
Я его
the fact that
замедлю,
the Monkey
и
King
ты нажмешь
didn't go
стан, и
for,
его ТП.
go for Defusal here, kind of like
Либо он не может
actually.
ТПшнуться.
You
Объясняю.
really don't need Maelstrom here. You already have enough D push, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, yeah, Slark went for the Defusal. This Bristleback's gonna get fucked. And Grip, no mana. He is done.
Просто
No
говорю, просто
mana,
нереально,
no mana,
блядь,
gets
злюсь
gripped by
просто
Bane.
пиздец.
I think I called that out like 5 minutes ago.
Просто пиздец как злюсь.
Or 3 minutes ago.
От
That's
ебаного
I'm
долбоёба.
very fucking certain that
Тысячный.
that I called that. Check the replay. Alright, let's see. If I was, what's the like? I still think he does it. Yeah, he does Helm Dom Impact. Yeah. See, he builds Helm Dom. Oh, he built Overlord. Helm Dom into Overlord. What? Clear out all his lands, and then let's see what this is gonna do here. Alright, well, I guess no more questions from the crowd, so I guess we'll turn off the stream for today. Thank you all for joining me. I'll notify you guys in the Discord if I'm going to do a Thursday session with someone. But like I said, if you're interested in taking that slot just for this Thursday, let me know. Email me. Oh, Isaac says, can I do evaluation for meta? Is their stock undervalued right now? Okay, since I did promise to do evaluation, let's look at meta. Let's look at the meta 10K. Let's do the annual reports here. So let's take a look at this. I think we all know what Meta does. I think we all know like they have a bunch of divisions. So the next thing I would look at for is I'm gonna look at the top line thing before I do look at the details. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so the assets here. Just this is off the top of my head right now. I'm not really doing anything too formal, but this is back of the envelope, and this just really, and I'm doing this valuation as if I was going to invest in the company. So let's see. So property, plants, and equipment probably doesn't mean much. Intangible assets. Okay, it doesn't mean much. So okay, so the goodwill means that they bought something, and then they overpaid for it, or in this case, they're expecting future revenues to be able to count this out. So I'm gonna wipe. So these are all in millions. So the number they say here, let's do for a billion. So let's say it's 166 billion here. Let me actually bust out a pen and paper here, or at least a pad. Let's see now. Google Docs. Let's see. So let's see. You have 165 billion in assets minus 41 million in liability, accounts payable, accounts deferred, current liability. Yeah, the quick ratio. They're able to meet all current obligations, and the long-term liabilities, total liabilities. Yeah, the long-term debts. Yeah, they don't have any long-term debts, so this is actually pretty good here. So, and they have accumulated a loss. Wow. Oof. So in other words, okay, so this return. So then let's look at the total equity we want here. So you have 124 billion. So the way that this is total equity is just assets minus liabilities, because if you think liabilities plus equity equals assets, because equity means how much the stockholders own. So let's do this. So if we just take that 224 billion minus the 19 billion of goodwill, so that what gets us to about 125. Let's say 105 billion. 105 billion book value right there. And the reason why you think of it this way is because if you have, like, let's say a bankruptcy, the clock stops, they have no more operations, they liquidate all these assets, and then they pay off all the liabilities first, and then whatever is remaining goes to shareholders. So that's basically the baseline, right? So you have 105 billion in book value here. Next thing is like, yeah, this revenue, right? This top line revenue is, I always say it's COVID boosted. So I would rather take like the last 10 years. So I'm gonna actually go to Guru Focus and get the last 10 year top line revenues. But for me, if I'm doing this as like a normal company, I'll say, okay, top line revenue is growing. Expenses are roughly growing at, I think, the same rate. So what, let's say that this is like 50% over 2 years. The expenses are growing at like what, 50, yeah, about the same rate. So top line and bottom line scales. So top line and expenses scale at same rate. So the margins aren't improving. That's the first thing I would notice. Next thing, so I see net income here, but the net income doubles. So net income is double. But you know, it eventually converges, right? So for now, it's fine. But the thing is that with net income, all it is just the difference between book value, right? The way I explain it is that if book value of these assets liabilities are what the company has on hand quarter to quarter, or I say year to year, then the net income is just the difference between the two, and where the differences are coming from. For this case, revenues is the sales and shit that you do. In this case, it's probably advertising, and then cost of revenue is like the R&D stuff, like the augmented reality and whatnot. So that's, and then you also have like the share-based compensation. I'm not gonna go too much into this, but basically when you have these average weighted shares and dilutions, it just means that there's like bonds that Facebook sold and convertible bonds and preferred stock that they issued. So that's why you have this basic and diluted. All this means is that, hey, for every earnings that you get per share, there are some percentage amount that you're being diluted by. So which means that if there's like, let's say 1 million shares out there, and then this thing gets diluted by 10%, then that means that there's probably about like what's 10% of 1 million, like 100,000 more shares out there ahead of you. So then you should expect to see go down by 10%. Of course, this is much less than that, but you get the point here. Okay, but in this case, this is something I would look for: extremely high debt and dilution. There's not really that much here. So all right, R&D here basically went double. So which is interesting. Share-based compensation expenses, including costs and expenses. Yeah, this is interesting. Why the heck did they break out total share-based compensation expense? This is cost. Why the hell did they break this out? This is really weird. So I'm gonna make that like, why break out share-based compensation? I mean, it makes this net income look nice, but honestly, it's actually, yeah. I mean, like the share-based compensation doubles as well. So in other words, you should really think of this net income as like rather 30 billion, rather than 39 billion, because if you get diluted, then you want to look at this as a business owner and shareholder, right? So the thing is that you kind of want to say that this is actually really a $30 billion number. So, okay, next thing. So I don't like that. I still think this is a real expense. Everyone says, oh, no, share-based compensation is not an expense. Yeah, not to the business, but it's an expense to the shareholders. So it's pretty fucking bad. Anyway, so let's take a look at the cash flows. The cash flows just means cash in, cash out from the business. Because remember, if net income is the difference between the balance sheets, that means that people can issue bonds, debts, and whatnot. People can also have the book value of some of their investments change, and that will be booked as income as well. So in other words, cash flow is just really the cash that's coming into the business or the cash that's coming out. So cash flow from there's three ways to do this, right? Operations, investing, and financing. So operations just means, hey, what are you doing day to day? So in the pizza example, let's say I ran a pizza store, right? It's just the amount of income I get from delivering and selling pizzas. Investing would be, hey, what if I take the pizza income and invest it into, let's say, the S&P 500? All the dividends that I would get come from investing, right? And then financing would be, hey, what if I sold bonds and debt against the pizza store? So this is so in this case, the pizza store is advertising here for operating. So the net income, and then you add back all the non-cash based stuff. So in other case, depreciation and amortization, I think is a fake expense because a lot of this gets reinvested as capital expenditures to keep the investment running. So this is just more of like a accounting treatment. So I would discount. I don't count this. So we add that back, changes in whatever. So they said the amount of cash coming in is fine. The company's going to be fine, guys. It's not at risk of dying. I think that's very much a myth. So in other words, I would probably say this is more like $46 billion in operating cash flow, or at least owner, minus whatever is done for the purchase of property, plant, and equipment. That's capital expenditures, things that you need to reinvest into the business. So let's say minus 18, right? So I like the fact that they reinvest a lot of their earnings, which they kind of have to, right? So which is about what? A third to a quarter of their income. So what? That gets us back down to like 30 or so, or I should say 28 billion. 28 billion in owner operating earnings. And then I tried looking for some funny stuff in the accounting. This purchase of marketable securities is probably like, and what repurchase of Class A? Jesus Christ, they repurchased a lot. I'm not quite sure what this purchase of marketable securities is, so I would definitely take a look at that. Why so much? I'm guessing these are government bonds. And then, oh, purchase and sales. Yeah. So you look, I would say here it's like roughly the same. I'm not quite sure what exactly they're buying, but I think these are supposed to be like treasury bonds. So instead of like holding things in like cash, what they do is like they try to get like 1 or 2% yield on the cash by holding them in like 12-month security bonds. So that way they get like additional 1% on it. So it's fine. So these numbers roughly match, give or take a couple. So I'm not too concerned about it. I might take a second look in it though. All right, so okay, this is fine. So the next thing I would want to look at is what the heck is COVID? This COVID boost, right? You notice here like it doubles. I think it's pretty unreasonable. Yeah, I think it's pretty I don't think this is reasonable at all. So let's see like let's see what's going down, what's driving it. So I would want to, I think we can break this out by revenue. Okay, so what's advertising? So basically almost all driven by advertising, except for so what is driving this advertising revenue? That's what I would look at. Europe, distributed by region. So again, I still think this is COVID boosted. So if you look here, you're getting like $50 billion from like US and Canada. You're getting nearly double from Europe, Asia Pacific, rest of the world. All right, yeah, sorry, I think I'm hiding this. Okay. So in other words, you're getting double just because you boosted from COVID and everyone's advertising across the world. So the next question is, okay, how sustainable is this? That's the real question you want to ask. So you get the 117 million. And I did say I wanted to take a look at the purchase of marketable securities. So it's going to be in the footnotes somewhere. Cash on marketable securities. Yeah, government agencies. So 2021. Due in 1 year, due in 5 years, equity investments. Yeah, we're looking for like 20 billion. Okay, so they actually total cash. Okay, nothing too out of the ordinary here. It's not like they're throwing their money in some other shit. So the gross unrealized gains on the market were not material, and 641 million of. Okay, so which means that whatever they invested in, they actually lost the 641 million. They got wiped out here. So okay, so. I'm not quite sure what exactly they invested in, but it doesn't seem like it's... If it's not material, then... Alright, whatever. fair value measurements. Yeah, so there's nothing really funny or listing any kind of like weird marketable assets here. So I don't see anything funny in here. Accumulated depreciation or property. Yeah, I think we can count this in because who the fuck is gonna like buy these servers at cost? When it, like let's say we liquidate, who's gonna buy these 25 billion in servers? Okay, so the next thing, so the only question we need to ask ourselves is how sustainable is the advertising that they're doing. So in other words, they're not gonna put this in the what's called the footnotes. They're gonna actually put this in the management discussion. So how the hell do they measure the okay, so this operating margin is very good. Highly expected of a tech company. Operating margins should be very, very thick. But again, like if you notice, like 25% of their profits go back to capital expenditures. So daily active people. So in other words, if you look at this, you see like there's about 2.8 to 3 billion people. Yeah, so there's about 2. Notice here that it's just starting to converge, right? So in other words, where is the advertising revenue coming from? So if we think about the advertising revenue, right? We can think of it from a few perspectives. Like if you're an advertising company, what can you do as Facebook to increase the number of dollars that are coming through the door? 1, you can throw more ads in your product, right? 2, get more users. Or 3, jack the rates of the advertising. That's really the only 3 ways that you can really get the get this coming from, right? So in other words, this get more users. It's obviously it's looking at these numbers right now. You can kind of see that it just peaks at 2.8 billion, which means that if you consider a population of 7 billion people on the planet, you do like some rough back of the napkin math. You're pretty much going to have to start getting into Africa. Like how many people are in Africa, right? Are in Africa. 1.21 billion. And then you also need to get like half of China as well. So and China's gonna be like really remote. So I'm gonna say off the top of my head, I don't think this number is gonna grow. Likely to compound and grow. So in other words, I'll treat this as close to pretty like 2%, just to track the population of the world. If I'm doing a conservative estimate, that's what I would do first. And I think the numbers kind of reflect that because if you expect it to be like what's 2% here, right? 2% would be increasing this by like 40 million people, which it's been doing, I would say, probably for the last 2 months, like 2019, 2020, 2021. It grew by 10% here from December 31 to, yeah, I think it grew by like 10 to 15%, and then it grew by another 10% here. I don't think it's reasonable to expect this to go up to 3 billion and compound. I don't think that's reasonable at all. So I'm going to conservatively guess. Yeah, see, it's like it grew 8%. Daily active people 8%. So it depends on what you think. You can adjust this like, no, it could be like 5%. I think it's going to be exponentially harder for Facebook to achieve penetration. So you can, I'll be nice. I'll say 2 to 5%. I don't think that this growth is going to be that much higher. So let's do that. Next thing, monthly active people, billions. So yeah, daily active, monthly active. I think it tracks roughly at the same rate. So this is let's see. Yeah, 9%. So it roughly tracks. Daily active and monthly active are kind of the same. Okay, so the average revenue per person. So average revenue per person was an increase of 22% from 2020. So the question now is, do you think that you can extract more ad revenue from each person? That's going to be the question that you're going to want to ask yourself here. So you see, like it's cyclical, right? So you see, like if the 21 billion here, and then gets 21 billion, and then jumps up to 28, 26, 29, 29, 31, 33, and it probably is going to like it's going to dip a little bit and then go up, dip a little bit, go up. So we can take these end-to-end points as a rough estimate, right? 21 to 28, that's what, 20%? That's like 25% or something like that. And then here is like 22%. So the question now is, do you think that this will be like 22% year over year? So in other words, this is where these two things come in to feed the ad revenue per person, I think. At least this is the way I would look at it. Is there anything else that I would look at here? Monthly active users, daily active users. Revenue worldwide. What else do they? Okay, those are all the I think that's all the yeah, family of apps revenue. Okay. So, okay, that's fine. So now the question becomes, okay, if I'm Facebook and I want to look at the monthly the revenue per person, because that's what they call it, revenue per person. So you either throw more ads in your product, jack the rates of advertising, or you introduce like some premium subscription. That's probably like one way they can do it. But this is like, oh, I'm guessing. So I'm going to say this doesn't exist yet. So let's not count it. So in other words, you either throw more ads at the person or you jack the rates of the advertising per person or per user. And to me, it's like, that's hard. For one, I hate advertising. It's one of the reasons why I don't do like run fucking ads for my business. I don't really like it. So I can't really value this. But if someone out there could say, okay, well, how many more ads could the Facebook platform sustain, like Instagram and WhatsApp sustain, then you would be able to calculate these numbers entirely, right? So let's suppose that, and this is going to rely on a bunch of like soft factors, right? Like, how many people can Facebook retain? You know, are you going to be able to get more users? This is where like the 2 and 5% thing come into play. And then like, if you throw more ads in your product, how many users are driven away? You know, because we all fucking hate ads, right? And so how likely are they to go to like TikTok, Snapchat, and whatnot? And if you raise the rates of advertising, how likely are advertisers willing to pay for that? Are they sticky? And these are questions that I can't really answer, but I'm going to say conservatively that you can probably like grow this like by 2%. Let's say 2%. And then let's give it like the jack the rates of advertising by like 2% to keep up with inflation. I'm going to say that these are like the 3 dimensions that you can grow against. So as long as you can do that, I think you can reasonably achieve like what? Let's give it 6 to 10%. Let's say 6 or 7% on average. This is like what I would do, but honestly, I think it's much lower than that. So let's say you get 6 to 10% compound annual growth rate on average. So then now you could probably like take the multiplier of whatever the net income was. We said like, what we said was like 28 to 30 billion, and then if you decided to say, oh, Facebook's gonna last forever, then you could do like a terminal valuation of that. But I personally only project out like 10 years, 5 to 10 years, just because like, it's really hard to see that far out. If you think like 10 years ago, right? Facebook was just beginning an IPO. So, tech companies live and die, like, I would say, like, 5 times as fast. 3 to 5 times as fast as normal companies. So, I'm only going to go project out to, like, you know, let's say 7. Let's be nice here. Let's be 10 years if you're nice. Let's be nice, right? So, in other words, let's say, like, we get 30 billion, and then we get 30 billion, and we discount that out. It grows at like 10% year over year, and then we discount out that back at like 10% year over year, just because to use that as like the S&P alternative for cost of capital, right? So let's say that's 300 billion plus whatever 400 billion for the book value. So let's say 400 billion. I'd give Facebook a market cap of 400 billion on like the average case scenario. That's at least the back of the napkin math. Of course, you can adjust these, and of course, these are not exactly accurate, right? I'm kind of ballparking a lot of this shit. So this is probably the valuation I'd give on Facebook. And of course, like, you might come to different decisions and ideas if, like, say, oh yeah, wait, you can still monetize WhatsApp at an incredible rate. You can still monetize Instagram at an incredible rate or whatever. But I would say Facebook stock, that's like the numbers. Now, of course, there's a bunch of other soft things like, oh, you know, one, quality of management. How greedy are they? Greedy or competent are they? You know, do they have the best interest of the company in mind and whatnot? And of course, like, how sure are you that management isn't manipulating the numbers? You know, there's a lot of like dumb shit that they can do in the expenses. Here, I think there was a very good example from Spencer Cornelius, right? And one of his videos, actually. He brought up like the real estate mogul making only $2,000 a month. He actually brings up the annual 10K in that. And so because of that, I'm going to give you this solid example. So shout out to him, honestly. Like, he did a very good job at covering this guy and digging into the numbers. So let's see. I'm going to show you an example of like some fuckery. Okay, so Tulsa real estate fund, right? So let's look at this. I'm going to show you some examples of fucked up accounting of like basically people blatantly stealing from companies. So this is like a 1K, which is like the equivalent of a 10K for a fund. So this is like a real estate fund, right? And then you look at let's look at the what's it called there? Where's the revenues? Hold on. So it's a real estate fund, right? So let's actually just look at the numbers, and where they're buying and selling and investing in real estate, right? So let's look at this, for a hot second. Okay, you guys can see this, right? All right, I'm gonna drag this down. Okay, so let's look at this. So, oh wait, no. This should be here. Let me zoom out on this actually. Zoom out 90%. Here we go. I think this should fit everything on screen. And let me know if you guys can't see this, but okay. All right, cool. So you see here, like, let's look at the revenues, right? This is the amount of money that they're bringing in. So they bring in like what? They lose 20 million. Yeah, these are all in thousands. So it's probably like, oh no, this is oh, those are thousands. Okay, so let's take the numbers as is. So they went from loan origination fees, which is like, hey, yeah, they're gonna issue loans to people for real estate. So they lost 20 million. They lost 20,000 on this and then gained 15. So like, why the heck did you lose money on loan origination? I think that's just like cash going out, and then they haven't collected like money for the loan originations. I think it's like the time difference. Oh wait, no. I'm looking at dollar difference. So they started in 2019. They collected 35,000 in fees, and then in 2020 they issued 15,000 in fees, which is understandable because not too many people are buying houses that are making loans in 2020. Management transaction fees. Okay, how the heck did the management transaction fees go up if the loan origination fees go down? Okay, why? Transaction funding fees. Okay, more fees. Why are they able to take more fees? The amount of loan origination fees went down. So rental income. Rental income went from 3,000 to 22,000. Okay, so they were able to collect like 20,000 more in rent, but they paid them. But the management fees went up by 20,000 as well. Does that smell a little bit fishy? Like, why are you able to go from 3,000 to 20,000 here? So that's okay. And then they collect some fees for that. Fine, whatever. Maybe it's just like the one-time expenses of like finder's fees and whatnot. Next thing, real estate interest from real estate assets. Okay. So they take 150 to 200,000. Fine, they're real estate assets and whatnot. And then loss on joint operation, loss in equity. Okay, so it's some pretty interesting stuff here. The management fees strike me as a little bit odd, but it could just be finder's fees, right? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now. So you see here, like they increased revenue. So far, so good, right? You might think that, oh yeah, like this is like so fucking good, right? But then you start looking at general and administrative. Like what the fuck here? You look here, it says that they increased by like $1 million for general, administrative, and marketing. You create like what, 20,000 more in rental, and you get 50,000 more in interest from real estate assets, which is just, even if you take origination into account, you spend $1 million just to get an additional what here, fucking $10,000. You spend $1 million to get $10,000 just on general and marketing. What the hell? That sounds like a really dog shit rate of return. And of course you can wave your hand and say, oh, finder's fees and whatnot. It's like, but if you're running this fund, you shouldn't really be taking a fee like that, just paying yourself $1 million just to increase your revenue by 10,000. That doesn't make sense. Another one, management fee. So not only do you take you market $1 million worth of shit, you take $100,000 worth of income, and then you also have other operating expenses. So it costs you $1 million in marketing, $1 million in operations, just to get an additional 10,000. Just to get an additional 10,000. What the hell? Does that not strike anyone as crazy? So you see here, like, this is like some really fucked up stuff, and not to mention, even though even though you raise it by 10,000, the amount of money you lost here is insane. You lose $1 million, and I guarantee you, all of it is just because, like, you pay $1 million here, $1 million there. Like, you see how fucked up they can get in the numbers if you really are paying attention here. So in other words, this is not something like, you have a real estate fund which is mostly passive. All you're doing is just buying real estate, and I understand taking a loss in the first half, but then like now you have to take another loss and you're twice as much down. Does that not strike you as weird? Like, if you're starting a business and then you pay yourself $1 million and you pay another $1 million in expenses just to get another 10,000 through the door, that strikes me as like really, really awful. That's not very competent. So this is like the accounting shenanigans you can really get into, and this is just the surface level stuff. This is like just in the top level result of operations. We haven't even dug into like some weird numbers like Enron. Enron like was really hard to figure out, and the only way you could figure it out was when you looked at like the 1999 and 2010K's difference, and you realized that their derivatives account value went from like 4 billion or something to like 12 billion, and they couldn't quite explain it. Like they said, oh yeah, it's like just selling volatility, but then it's like, how do you triple your revenue by selling the same amount of volatility. Like, if you just thought about it, that's just like, I don't know. But then the question then becomes, okay, do I trust the management enough to give them the benefit of the doubt? And that's why I bring up the what's called the whole question of like, hey, how good is the where'd that one go? Yeah, I should have. Where'd it go? The Google Doc. Yeah, no. And on the Google Doc, I said, hey, what's the quality of the management? Do you trust them enough? Are they honorable and whatnot? And that's where you really have to evaluate the soft side of things that are not in the numbers. How competent are these managers and how ethical are they? And are they trying to screw you over? You know, are they robbing? And there's a really good book here. Let me actually get it for you guys. Let me show. I'll get it back. Okay, it's this book. It's called The Art of Short Selling. And they actually have a lot of really good examples in here about, oh yeah, these are all the companies here that people have like successfully sold short because either there's some accounting fuckery, some people or the market is like overpricing and whatnot because they believe in the hype, et cetera, et cetera. They have a lot of good examples here, but I think half the book is like a bunch of examples of people and management of these businesses basically committing borderline fraud. Where if you dug into the numbers and figured out why the numbers are the way they are, they're basically fraudulent. Like some people are like overly inflating the value of some of the assets they have on the book and then writing them down in one quarter. Other people are basically committing fraud by stealing from the business by issuing a bunch of stock and paying themselves that management fee, which is exactly what you see here, you know. And so I would recommend anyone who's interested in diving into these numbers really pick this one up. Of course, like it's going to take some time for people to really be able to read 10Ks. I think one of the problems is that with a lot of these financial disclosures, you really need to get a lot of practice with it. And most people don't have the time to read through 134 pages. In fact, if you notice here, I think I only read through like, I would say like 30 pages of the Facebook 10K to really try and do a valuation. And I think that's the way it should be. You know, of course, there's going to be I'll give an example of like the unreadability of these things. So let's look at the risk factors here, right? If you notice here, there's like 30 pages of risk factors. Like, it's like, if you know the business, chances are common sense is going to tell you what the risk factors are. You know, it's like Facebook's ability to Facebook is an advertising company. So what are the factors affecting advertising in general? You know, and so in general, you can just kind of see like the top level thing. I think if you have a general sense of what these are, you pretty much already know it. So for instance, security breaches. No duh. Every single tech company has a risk of security breaches. The name of the book is called The Art of Short Selling, by the way. And I'll link it up here. So yeah, this is the book. It's really cheap, right? It's like $6. I'm not telling you to buy. If you are interested in like financial stuff, this is actually a pretty good book. I'm not selling. Keep in mind, I'm not selling a fucking course. These are the books that, and I'm not like affiliate linking this at all. Like I genuinely think it's a good book. And it's very, very cheap. It's $6. It's like, I'm sure you can get it for like 4 on Abe Books. I use Abe Books all the time, actually. But yeah, it's really cheap. But it's not really easy to read for people who aren't really versed in finance, I think. Anyway, but yeah, like a lot of these like annual reports are really unreadable to most people, I think. But I think that if you just read the business side of things, and then you kind of look at mine safety disclosure, which is like, oh yeah, is anyone bringing lawsuits and shit against you, legal proceedings and whatnot. And then you really only need to look at like the financial statements, and then look at like, hey, when do the numbers like look funny, and then you'll find that in the footnotes, and then you look at the management discussions of financial conditions and whatnot. I think that's pretty much it. Of course, the rest is going to be like, hey, yeah, are they issuing new debt? Are they going to, are they like diluting shareholders? And of course, that's going to be in various other places. But for the 99%, I would say 9% of companies that are decently good, you only really need to look at like a third or a quarter of the annual report. So at least, but again, I've had a lot of practice reading it. So I'm kind of like not going to go there. But yeah, let's. But as a final thing, let's see what Facebook is trading at. Facebook stock. So they're trading at 377 billion, which is pretty much around fair market value, actually. Huh. I didn't even know, to be honest, I didn't even know the number. I just did a back of the envelope calculation and showed how I derived there. So in other words, Facebook is pretty conservatively priced if you believe that. Now the question then becomes, what is the annual expected return? Well, like I said, I kind of gave them like the 10% growth. I think if you invest based on that, today, if you invested in Facebook, you probably can expect around like 10% year over year, I think, if it follows that valuation. Now, I that's of course what I view it as. Some people might say, "Hey, wait a minute. There's like you might take 10%, but then there's all these tailwinds of like monetizing WhatsApp better, monetizing all these other things better." But for me, I'm not very well versed in advertising. Like I said, I fucking hate it, and I don't like. That's probably like one of the reasons why I didn't really like want to invest in Google. I mean, don't get me wrong, Google is like a great company, and I would invest in it. It's just that I have a propensity to not like advertising, and I think that's pretty much kept me away from a lot of these other tech companies, I think. So I don't like investing in things that I personally don't like. That being said, Microsoft has like, you know, $13 billion of revenue from LinkedIn. But if I valued Microsoft as well, I probably, I don't know. They're mostly cloud services, so I could see myself investing in Microsoft if I believe in cloud, but I don't know. LinkedIn is just one of those cesspools that I just find myself kind of like gagging over. I mean, I don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic utility for professional networking, but it's like, I can't stomach spending more than like 5 minutes there without reading some cringeworthy content that people like are posting there. Just not my thing, and I just can't really find myself investing in things I don't believe in strongly. Don't get me wrong, I think management at Microsoft is top quality. I just can't get around the LinkedIn problem. I'm sorry. So I mean, I gotta like vote with my fucking morals, you know. That's just who I am. And, you know, some people might be like, some people might be okay with it, you know. Some people might say, hey, whatever fucking pays the bills and whatever makes me money, and you know, all I care about is just making the dollars, and you know, go have at it, Hoss. You know, like I think the quality at Google, Microsoft, and you know, are gonna be like really good. You know, I think that, I think that fucking Sundar Pichai is absolutely brilliant. He reminds me of like Tim Cook actually, and I think that as long as you can overlook a lot of the advertising angle of these things, you know, because that is their main business model, right? I think as long as you overlook that, you're gonna be. I think they're fantastic investments, and I really respect Google. Honestly, like I'm not gonna shy away from it. Like I want to work at Google at one point. And I still maybe in the future, in the cards for me, I'd be very open to it. I mean, incidentally, I'm working on Android, which is a Google product. It's just that I can't really see myself like putting a significant amount of money in it just from a morally conscious point of view. And I think if I'm not head and heart's not in it, I'm not gonna do it. My gut's not in it, I'm not gonna do it. So anyway, that's it from me. Yeah, all social media is gross. Yeah, I try to stay the fuck off of it, and so does Breadcat Bounce as well. Don't get me wrong, I have Discord, I have Facebook, I have LinkedIn, but I use them very sparingly because I only really want to use them to keep up with my friends who I meet in real life. But beyond that, I have no interest in really being in social media or participating in it to a large extent. I think that for me, I would very much try to avoid it like the plague. I think Charlie Munger pretty much says the same thing about Twitter. It's hard to know anything about Twitter when I'm trying to avoid it like the plague. That's a real quote. So that's my point of view. I'm sure other people enjoy it. And at the end of the day, social media is just a tool, right? It's as good as you make it to be. And personally for me, I think at this point in my life, I think there's a lot more downsides to social media than upsides. I'm not saying that I'm not using it. Again, I use it to keep up with my friends, and it's a wonderful tool. It's just that I don't have as much use for it as I did in the past. Okay, Croysu says, sorry, I missed this question. I'm going to be real with you. I tried studying grokking, but I'm simply not getting the concepts even after looking at the solution. I've had some moderate success in just spamming LeetCode. I want the intuition and understanding of the question and code solution, but grokking simply does not provide that to me. Am I doing something wrong? Yeah, I'm going to say that if like the first step is to follow the guide, right? And of course, this intuition doesn't really come overnight. It really involves a lot of practice with like, okay, I reckon the way you use grokking, right, is you recognize, hey, there's a pattern here. And it's to be able to work through that over and over and over again. You know, the pattern for like a 2-pointer I bring up is always like, hey, when you have 2 nested loops, then chances are you can use a 2-pointer. It's about the intuition comes from seeing these problems over and over again, and then following the same framework over and over again of, hey, what's the naive solution, and then how do I get to the optimal one? I suspect that if you're not getting the intuition, chances are you're not paying attention to that flow. You really want to pay attention to the flow of where you come from a naive approach to an optimal one, and recognizing, hey, I can use this pattern. And it's also part of it is also being able to recognize your own mistakes about like why you're in a position to make these mistakes and what the mistake is in your framework and approach. That's really the ultimate question we try to answer here when we try to do these problems, right? It's not about, oh yeah, I get the problem right or wrong. The question is, why did I get the problem right or wrong? And what is wrong with my approach and what do I need to fix in my approach in order to get there? Now, it's not natural to a lot of people, I think. If you are very used to looking at your own mistakes, this comes very easily. If you are not very honest with like your mistakes and you just kind of blame the problem and just say, oh, if I memorize this one thing over and over, if I memorize this one thing, I'll do the problem right next. I'll be better. If I memorize this one thing, I'll be better. If you think like that, then chances are that you're doing the wrong thing. That's what I call blaming the problem. Again, it's like the framework you need to approach these problems that really matters. So let me know if I answered your question right, or if I called out like any of your bad habits, or if I missed the mark completely. But yeah, I think a lot of people have these problems. It's just like being able to look at yourself honestly and just say, hey, I fucked up. I'm the one that's at fault here. What are the things I need to do in order to do better, in order to get this problem right next time? How can I be systematically better? You've had moderate success just spamming LeetCode. Okay, I mean, if that works for you, then yeah. But I mean, I would say that chances are that eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to run into problems that you don't understand. Yeah, I think I am honest with enough of my many flaws, but I'll try harder. I think there's a certain point where, you can only try so hard, right? But it's like you need to be able to recognize if you're making the same mistake over and over again. If the patterns aren't clicking with you, then I mean, those patterns are tools, right? I would say give EPI a shot, see what happens. But I honestly, I kind of wrote it on the guide. I can't really troubleshoot what's going on without actually without talking to you, seeing your practice diary and whatnot. I would say you need to be able to look. I would say as long as you're keeping the practice diary, and eventually after 50 hours you will get there. But yeah, if you're not getting it, then I guess email me and see if we can do a Thursday session or something. Do the session on Thursday. I think I can pretty much guarantee you I can probably figure out the problem within 1 to 5 minutes of talking to you. I think there's a difference between smart work and hard work. And if you feel like you're putting in the hard work and you're really, really driving with it, then chances are you're putting the effort. And so putting more effort into the same framework and mental thought is not going to be productive. What really needs to happen probably is that you need to have a change in the way you view your mistakes. I think, or the way you evaluate your efforts. So it's not about hard work. It's about being a little bit smarter at it. I don't like the phrase it's not about hard work. It's not working harder. It's working smarter. It's both really. And of course that you also need to have the right framework for evaluating this shit, as well. And if you don't, then all the hard and smart work in the world won't do you much good. So it's about asking yourself the right questions and having the necessary framework to improve it. And learn is part of that effort, right? So it's not easy. None of it's meant to be easy. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. Anyway, I think that's it for me. I've done talking a lot. I want to go play Dota. So I'll see you guys later. Thank you all for joining me. I'll send out a message in Discord if I do have a Thursday session. Again, people who are interested in taking that slot, email me and we'll chat. Thank you all for joining me. Again, follow me on my Discord, and links are in the description below, and I'll see you all next time.